Time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Bud and Ross both still with us, and we are welcoming a new addition to our on-air team here at ITP. Berna Dean Steptoe is our political producer at Channel 8. She's a former editorial columnist here in town and on a number of boards. You've likely seen her in the community as well, so we welcome her from the control room down here to the set. Thanks for coming downstairs.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start in Austin, though, with you, Ross, and Republicans censuring outgoing House Speaker Joe Straus. What message are they sending to primary voters?
Well, they're telling them that they want the social conservatives in the House to prevail and that they don't like the business conservatives led by Joe Straus. The SREC, the State Republican Executive Committee, is a little bit more conservative than the House itself, or probably than the general electorate, but they're talking to the true believers in the Republican Party and kind of putting their foot down.
Some people on the right thought they had to do this because they think Straus is more traditional Republican, right?
Well, and yes, and they're also telling those who would accept support from Straus not to, because they're saying that he is not the conservative and the Republican that they want. So they're setting a stage for the upcoming election as well.
Yeah, the primary is a month away, and this is not about Joe. Joe's not coming back, but this is about the candidates on the ballot who are Joe's chairman, Joe's lieutenants, you know, that have more conservative challengers. This is all part of the effort. The movement conservatives want to move the party further to the right.
But let me ask you this next question, too. We're talking about, you know, the next election. The deadline to register to vote for the March 6th primary, that's coming up tomorrow, actually. If the turnout is low, who does that help, Bud?
Well, you know, I'll be anxious to hear what Ross sees in Austin, but it looks like a very small primary here. There's not a lot of action at the top of the ballot, and so you're going to have only the maddest and meanest and most active voters who are going to come out to vote in either primary. I think the moderates in both primaries are concerned that the fringe will be the only ones voting.
Who do you think, Berna Dean? Who does that help?
I think it will help the Republicans. And I know that this is a primary, but those conservative Republicans, as well as it will help incumbents from both parties.
And Republicans always get the vote out. Democrats are the ones that have been challenged in the past. Are they motivated this time, do you think?
Well, we will see, because their constituents aren't necessarily those voters who come out and vote in midterm elections. And I know that there are a lot of efforts to get them out, but we'll see.
And Ross, Bud had the question for you. What are you seeing in Austin?
Elections are like car wrecks. People go to big ones. And this election doesn't seem to have the big fights that draw people to the polls, either on the Republican or the Democratic side. I think November could be a bigger deal, but I expect low turnout in both primaries, and that benefits the really Democratic Democrats and the really Republican Republicans.
That is surprising to me. I hosted or moderated rather, a Democratic debate for Congress up in Denton. 450 people came out and showed up. There seems to be a lot of interest, but the question is whether they show up to the polls.
There have been a lot of Democratic turnout at the forums, but you know, it's the Republican events that aren't drawing people out. People are just a little weary of politics after the last year.
Ross, let me ask you about President Trump's first State of the Union last week. How was that received here in Texas, where so many Republicans and Democrats aren't really in favor of this border wall, extending the border wall?
Well, it depends on which part of the speech you're talking about and which part of the audience you're talking about. Republicans seem pretty happy about it. The wall speech was wrapped in, pardon me, the wall speech was wrapped in news about crime. He talked about M13 and other things, and vilified to some extent the people that he was talking about in DACA later and in the wall later. So Democrats had a mixed reaction to it. Republicans thought that he was going maybe too far toward the Democrats to make a deal.
30 seconds left, Berna.
But at the end of the day, the Republicans will like what President Trump says, and the Democrats will not like it, regardless of what he says.
Simple as that final word.
254 miles of wall in Texas. We'll see how people like it.
Gotcha. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. And welcome to ITP as well, Berna Dean. Thank you for watching as well. Reminder, tomorrow is the last day to register to vote for the March 6th primary. ABC's This Week is straight ahead, and we'll see you again next Sunday.